Good evening, everyone. How's it going? Excuse me, tripping over me words there, not for the first time. Excuse me, I have important business to attend to. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way before we start. I've been shopping in Morrison's this week. So, yes, what kind of week you all had? We've had some good news in our house. My missus, who's been out of work for, since the back end of 2019, she's just got herself a job this week. She hasn't started yet, but absolutely aced the interview and got offered the job on the spot. So quite proud of her. So anyway, cheers. Oh, I tell you what, I took the dog out for a walk about 4 o'clock, and I was really parched and thirsty when I came back, and I thought, no, I won't have, a glass of juice or a glass of water or anything like that. I'll save it, because dearie me, doesn't it taste better when you're really kind of hanging for it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the congratulations. Jason saying good evening from Stuttgart, Germany. Lots of rain here, so not so much work, but I get paid for just the same. Cheers, everyone. Yes, that's the kind of job you want, isn't it? I'll tell you a true story. When I was growing up, we had our family, we had a grocer's shop when I was growing up, just little general dealers kind of thing. And my parents used to go to the cash and carry to pick up, all of the kind of stock, basically. And the bloke who lived next door to us, he was employed by a local big employer in this part of the world. I won't say who it is, but it was one of the big employers on Teesside. And he used to be employed there. He's like a kind of fitter's mate or something like that. What he actually used to do was he used to go with my parents to the cash and carry and buy a load of sweets and chocolates and, cigarettes and all sorts of stuff. And he used to have a little kind of shop in one of the little offices on the shop floor there, and just used to, that's what he used to do. And and management knew about it and turned a blind eye. That was the 70s for you. Anyway, let me tell you what's happening on the channel this week. In the morning, we have, lunchtime, I think it's scheduled to go up. We have one of my usual weekend jams. It's a little bit shreddy and a little bit funky and a little bit kind of twiddly-widdly, that one. But then to counterbalance that, on Monday, we have an absolute classic solo, one that I've had a few requests for, so I thought I'd uncork it this week. We're looking at probably Richie Blackmore's most soulful and emotional solo. So any ideas what that might be? Anyone? Then Tuesday, do you remember those videos I used to do where it'd be like kind of 5 fantastic albums to yada, 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 kind of 5 great blues albums, 5 great, guitar albums, all that sort of stuff. Well, I'm kind of going back onto that sort of thing. But basically, I'm going to do a full video on a particular album. And Tuesday, we're looking at a particularly fantastic album of the instrumental rock genre. Then Wednesday, a little bit of a kind of soloing phrasing tip, which I've had to be a bit cryptic about this one because, you'll know when you hear it, but basically if I actually if I do the lesson on YouTube as I would do it like in, kind of a normal lesson, then it would probably get demonetized. But anyway, you'll know more on Wednesday. And on Thursday, we are looking at just how much money you can part with if... Has Richie Blackmore been playing that solo since she's been gone? Oh, yes, Jason, fair enough. On Thursday, we're looking at just how much money you can part with if you want to buy a Telecaster. Okay? If you've got, let's say, well into 4 figures and maybe even 5 figures, then you can buy a Telecaster for that. We're going to be looking at them. No, it's not Lazy. It is Deep Purple, though. It's not from the Rainbow era, Richie. Evening, Craig. Evening, Dan. Cheers. So think, one of Richie Blackmore's solos, it's not really, well, it's not at all sort of full of pyrotechnics and flashy stuff or any of the things that he's often known for, but it is, I think, one of his most beautiful solos. And I'm not a big Richie Blackmore fan, but I do like this solo. I like the song, actually. Little clue for you. It was recorded during the Machine Head album sessions, but it didn't end up on the album. See, the real Deep Purple kind of nerds will know exactly which song I'm talking about when I mention that, but there you go. No, it didn't, Steve. That one didn't last long. It's it rather sets the tone for a Friday evening. It does get a bit blurry by the time I hit the hay later on. John is drinking like he just finished mowing the grass. Yeah, I've said before, the first one never touches the sides. No, Bob, not Soldier of Fortune, mate. Not Black Knight. No. I love the vintage V75. I own the vintage V6P now with 3P90s. Yeah, that was a great guitar. The V6P. That's like the sort of Strat thing, isn't it? With the 3P90s. Yeah, I mean, it's just such. When vintage first brought that out, it was just like, I think that was one of the AV series guitars, and it was like a Strat with 3P90s, and you think, why has no one ever thought of this before? Colin's got it. Yes, Colin, you've got it, mate. When a Blind Man Cries. It's just, I think, it's such a simple song. There's nothing clever in the chord sequence. There's nothing clever in the melody or like the lyrics or the guitar playing, but it's just, everything is just perfectly in alignment in it. I love the song. Yeah, that's the one, When a Blind Man Cries. Evening, Chip. What's the verdict on Andy Latimer of Camel? I absolutely adore Camel. I love, I mean, the Snow Goose is everything from, say, the early stuff, like what was the one before? Was it Mirage before Snow Goose? I can't remember. I lose track of the early albums, but the Snow Goose on to about, what was that album with the spaceman on the cover? And then I kind of, I sort of lost interest a little bit. But that period of Camel is just, it's golden. Bands have that. Bands have a golden period, and then you just got to learn to enjoy it while it's there, and there you go. Do some Camel. I have got some Camel lined up, actually. It's going to be a while. I was thinking of doing at some point a series on, like, not just a solo, but maybe kind of looking at an entire song in a similar kind of way to Rick Beato does, but we'll see. There's a lot of work involved in a video. I Can See Your House From Here. Yeah, that's the album, Essex Beast. Yes. My mate's a huge fan of Budgie. I've not really heard them. Any thoughts? Yeah, cracking little sort of power trio kind of boogie band, really. That's my impression of them. Haven't got any of their albums, but I've seen, when they do these things, these retrospectives, where you see old Grey Whistle Test performances, from the 70s and stuff. And, fantastic. Any Gong fans out there, since we're talking prog rock? Now, there's a band. I used to have that, what was that album, Gazoos? I had to be in the right mood to listen to it, and increasingly I found myself rarely in the right mood. Who was another band who? Anybody remember Brand X? I think Phil Collins used to drum for him, didn't he? Gazoos, excellent album. Yeah, it's a great album, but it's I just found myself it's a rewarding listen, but you've got to be prepared to kind of concentrate on it, and kind of sit with the headphones on and not read a book while you're listening, and not kind of be distracted, and just kind of lose yourself in the music and devote that amount of time to just losing yourself in the music. And I rarely have time to kind of do that these days. Evening, Tim. How are you? I was looking for Budgie on Twitter, but not a tweet. You're full of them tonight, aren't you, Jason? Indeed, yes. Thank you very much. I'm here all week, as the comedian says. I used to watch Camel at the Marquee with all the original members in the 70s. They were great. There is a fantastic clip on YouTube, where else, of Camel doing a selection of tunes from the Snow Goose. I think it's an Old Grey Whistle Test section, kind of segment, and it's about 20 minutes long, and they just kind of do this medley of tunes from the Snow Goose. Fantastic. That is probably my favorite Camel album. Moon Madness isn't bad either. That's a close second. Okay, Bob, you're going to try those recording tips, mate. Let me know how you get on. Pop me an email and let me know how it goes. Yeah, Tim, I was never into Caravan. It was always just a bit meh to me. I could never quite get into it. It was just a bit too kind of folky for me. Not that I have a problem with folk music, but it was just the kind of, I don't know. It just didn't. It didn't set my world on fire. I'd love to do a video on Burns guitars as well, because I have a very, very special place in my heart for Burns guitars. My local guitar tech, who lived a matter of a few streets away from me, a guy called Jim Cairns, sadly no longer with us. I mean, he did all my work on my guitars from when I was a teenager. He used to build. I think when Burns were resurrected back in the 90s, he was doing a lot of the work for them and a lot of luthiery for them. And if ever you see a Jim Cairns guitar, then they don't come up very often, but they're worth it. What's the latest on your signature guitar? Well, Dan's on here tonight, I believe, so maybe he can answer better on that. But it's apparently heading towards the finish line at a rate of knots, and it's I'm hoping to get me sweaty little mitts on it, as sooner rather than later. But that said, I'm not. I would rather it took an extra week or two to get it just perfect rather than to have it rushed. Yeah, Jim did. There, Craig. Jim did some work on your guitars. He was a very talented man. Yeah, he was. He was a grumpy sod. It has to be said. It's. I think I can count on the fingers of one hand the number of times I saw him crack a smile. But he was a golden bloke, heart of gold, and he would always do his best to get the guitar just exactly the way you wanted it. Waxed finished guitars. See that kind of knackered old Telecaster thing? That's my Telecaster that I bought in a charity shop for 25 quid. That's got a wax finish on it, and it's it doesn't look particularly nice, but it's a very tactile kind of feeling guitar. Oh, not long now then, Dan. Thank you. Oh, you see, you get me excited now. Where are we? Well, I went and joined the dark side. I ordered a PRS Standard 24. It arrives tomorrow. Well, nothing wrong with that, mate. I mean, no wrong with those PRS standards. Just nice and kind of restrained and plain looking. The older I get, the less I'm into kind of blingy, kind of outlandish looking guitars. Burns are now in new ownership with Andertons. I didn't know that. I'll tell you another brand I'm itching to try out. They kind of got resurrected a couple of years ago is Shergold, because I have memories of the old Shergold Masquerader from the 70s. You know, that was the guitar that you know, if you took it for granted in the 70s that as an adolescent you were never going to be able to afford an American guitar like a Fender or a Gibson or a Rickenbacker or something like that, because they were just a pipe dream to be able to kind of get your hands on something like that. Then, you know, Shergold Masquerader was quite the guitar to aspire to. Are we going to get an unboxing Trogley style when your telly arrives, John? Possibly. I haven't really put any thought into what like the video is going to be like, but it's it would be nice to kind of share that with you, wouldn't it? Okay, Dan, you'll send me the last of the update photos over the weekend. Then next time you see it, hopefully you'll be playing it, mate. Oh, dearie me, I'm excited. Yes. Excuse me while I just jump up and down. Yes. All in all, I got to commend Dan for the build process here. If you're thinking about buying one of these signature guitars, and I heartily recommend that you do, then you know you will. If you know, I can only speak from my experience of dealing with Dan. You know, every step of the way, you're getting photographs and updates and progress reports, and you know, I mean, if you go and order a custom built guitar from, you know, well, Gordon Smith, for example, you know, they say 8 weeks, but I know people that have waited twice that long for their guitar from Gordon Smith. Not that it's not worth the wait, because Gordon Smiths are fantastic guitars, but you know, again, you know, Crimson guitars, fantastic guitars again, but you know, you look at the lead time on getting one of those, and I've got to say that the turnaround time that Dan has, you know, from, it seems like only 5 minutes ago that he was sending me photographs of planks of wood, and you know, now we're kind of talking about the guitar being, you know, this close to finished. So anyway, I like those road-worn tellies on. I presume you mean tellies, yes, on Andertons. Yeah, well, fair enough, mate. I don't get off on the whole kind of road-worn relict kind of thing, but it's a thing that you either like or you don't. I mean, I can't go anywhere near my missus if I've had Marmite. You know, she says, you know, she's kind of doing that at me. But so it's one of those things, isn't it? You know, Marmite, you either love it or hate it, and same with relic guitars. Anyone like those parallel universe Fenders? Says Tim. There's a couple I have a bit of a soft spot for, but they're just ruinously expensive. The is it the Uptown Strat? That's like a cross between a Strat and a Les Paul. Trogley did a thing on that, and he was calling it an ugly guitar, but to me it was a thing of beauty. What's your favourite pickup type to use? Ooh, ooh. It depends. Whenever I pick up a Telecaster and flip to the bridge pickup, I always think I can't live without this sound in my life. I do like the sound of a neck single coil, but then again, I love the sound of a neck humbucker. The only pickup I can say that really captures the best of both a single coil and a humbucker is like a Filtertron style pickup. But in some ways they are a little bit kind of not quite beefy enough to be a humbucker and not quite sort of transparent enough to be a single coil. My favorite pickup type to use actually is a humbucker that kind of can be chopped in half and give a good single coil sound, which is what's going on my signature guitar. You're more than welcome, Dan. I wouldn't be saying if it wasn't if it wasn't the case. Iron gear pickups have made my Harley Benton into a tone monster. Yeah, iron gear pickups are fantastic pickups. They are. I mean, try and tell the difference in a blind test between iron gear and Duncan's or DiMarzio's, and you're going to struggle if you can do it at all. Yeah, I mean, the guy we've got to thank, Alan, for all of these relict guitars is effectively a relict human being. It's Keith Richards, isn't it? Fender made him some, apparently in the early 90s, Fender made him some copies of, his famous Telecaster, Mikoba. And he said, yeah, they're good guitars, guys, but they're just a little bit too new. I want something a bit gnarly and beaten up. And that, kind of spawned the whole Fender relicking series. And, then that proved popular, and then everybody else kind of jumped on it. There is, as I've said a few times, only one. God, look at that. You wouldn't think I used to be a barman, would you? There is only one relict guitar that I've ever coveted, and it's not an expensive guitar. It's the vintage V100 Lemon Drop, which is, to all intents and purposes, a Gary Moore signature guitar for 300 quid or thereabouts. But I just can't quite get past the relicking. It's not a good relic job on those guitars. It does, look phony, or certainly the ones I've seen. And yes, they do a non-relict version of it, but then they put like a really heavy gloss poly lacquer on it. So I just wish they would do the non-relict version, but with the satin finish that the relict version gets. Thank you, Con. In February 2020, I joined John's Patreon. I've received 100 lessons in that time, £3 a month. Thank you, Con. And thank you for that donation. A few people last week pitched in with, kind of donations on the super chat, and and they'll be going to Zoe's place as soon as I get the money through from YouTube. I'll do a video on that, actually, kind of showing you me making the donation, because it's only right that everything is seen to be above board. You could always give the Lemon Drop a rub with some Scotch Brite. Now, there's an idea. Yes. But then again, the main thing with the Lemon Drop is that it's got that Peter Green out of phase sound. And I wonder if there's another guitar that has that out of phase sound in the middle position. Oh, yeah, that will be my signature guitar. Why do people don't like relic cars? Why only guitars? Well, it's that thing, like, with having the knees hanging out of your jeans, isn't it? I've never got that either. But I suppose I was into relicking in a bit of a way back in the 80s because, like everybody else in the 80s, I wore stonewashed jeans. Hi, John. Your thoughts on baritone guitars, please? I've often fancied getting one, but it would be something that would be fun for 20 minutes, and then I would probably never use it again for 6 months. And, it's like, I mean, back in the 70s when I was cutting my teeth, late 70s, when I was cutting my teeth as a guitarist, the Shadows were having a bit of a resurgence in popularity, and that was kind of a big thing for me. And also, Dwayne Eddy was kind of making a little bit of a comeback. And he did a couple of things on like a baritone guitar. And, I've thought, should I pull the trigger on one? But it's like, again, it's something like, how much would I use it? But, I do like the sound of them, where are we? Johnny Random, I've got a relict car. Yes. I'm just wondering how long it is before PRS start bringing out relic versions of their guitars. I don't think they have yet, to my knowledge, anyway. It can't be long before they start doing it. I'm thinking of doing a video at some point, because I've done a video on the great guitar-related movies and great sort of guitar-related TV shows and great guitar-related other media things. I haven't done a guitar-related books video yet, but one I am thinking of doing is, and I've long since lost the dust jacket off this one, but it's this one, the Ultimate Guitar Book. Oh, hello, something's just fallen out of it there. The Ultimate Guitar Book. And there is a picture of the PRS in here. There's so many pictures in here that this is proper sort of guitar nerd porn. I mean, just look at this. There's a picture of a PRS in here, which is just the most gorgeous guitar imaginable. Oh, see that thing there? I used to have one of those. And, I look at modern PRSs and I think they don't quite look as tasty as this one. I'm just trying to... Oh, there it is. There. For me, that is an absolutely gorgeous looking PRS. And they don't seem to look as nice as that anymore. I don't know. It's just... Sorry, I just went off on a bit of a... it's called The Ultimate Guitar Book, and it's by Tony Bacon. My PRS is battered and gig to hell, not relic, just old and worn in. Yeah, you see, that's it. I don't mind a guitar that's kind of got that natural aging. It's just when it's all kind of a bit contrived. That's something I just can't quite get my head around why you'd want that. Hi, all. Just had my chicken shawarma in the market for Harley Benton. Any thoughts? Get one. Get one. Here's the thing. You buy a Harley Benton and they're cheap. And sometimes the reason they are cheap is because they turn up and they need a bit of setup work. Harley Benton guitars, and, it's my guitar setup skills have improved beyond measure since I started getting Harley Benton guitars through here, for the Guitars for Good Causes thing. Because a lot of them needed setting up before they were sold on. And I've learned how to do fret jobs. I've learned how to do, all kinds of stuff that I would never have probably tackled beforehand. And at the end of the day, it's a cheap guitar, and it's like, you might as well have a go. So Ben Crow relic the PRS. Shame on him. Yeah, Harley Benton guitars, they're great guitars. You know, there's two reasons why they're cheap. One is they're built in, you know, kind of low wage economies, but again, then you can say that for Squier and Epiphone and PRS SE guitars and so on. Okay. Another reason is they go straight from the factory to the shop to you. You're not going via importers and wholesalers and distributors and stuff. And another reason that Harley Benton guitars are cheap is, yes, sometimes they do outsource the final quality control to the end customer, to the consumer. And as long as you're okay with that and you're able to just do a little bit of, you know, kind of spot leveling on the frets or, you know, intonation and, you know, kind of sorting out a bit of fret sprout, then you'll get a good guitar out of it. Yes, Paul, I did see the video of what's he called, Tyler from Music Is Win, paying $5,000 for an overdrive pedal. You know, you see, I come from an electronics background, and I just, you know, there's probably 10 quid's worth of components inside that box. But as Rhett Shull said when he was doing a video about the Dumble amps, he said, imagine this. Imagine if you wanted the sound of a Marshall amplifier. If you wanted a Marshall amplifier, but there'd only been like 2,000 Marshall amplifiers built throughout, you know, in all of time. How much would a Marshall amplifier cost you? It's the scarcity that that, you know, that causes the price hike. Where are we? Yes, it was a original Klon, the Klon Centaur, the horsey one that he got, which is the one that's got the Centaur on it. How about In a Broken Dream by Python Lee Jackson? Dearie me, yes indeed. Whatever happened to Python Lee Jackson after Rod Stewart, you know, kind of didn't sing with him anymore? You say scarcity, I would say stupid. Well, the thing is, you know, anything that the value of anything in a free market is determined by what people are prepared to pay for it. Would I pay $5,000 for a guitar? Probably not. Well, no, I wouldn't. There's no probably about it. So I certainly wouldn't pay $5,000 for a pedal. You know, it's just. I am looking around for a VST to kind of clone it, though. You know, to kind of see if there's because I did that video last week sometime on the Marshall Governor VST, and I've got a bit of a special video coming up on that actually, where I'm trying to kind of get the sound of an iconic guitar tone that is you know, based upon the Governor pedal, and Stevie Hoggett's going to be helping me out. You know, with that one, when he gets some spare time. But a Carline Pegasus clone copy ripoff got great reviews. Only cost 34 quid. Yeah, this is it. It's when you pay for something that's like $5,000 for a guitar pedal, you're not paying for the pedal. You're paying for the fact that it's, you know, you could go and buy. You know, I mean, you could go and buy a table from your local second-hand shop, you know, for, I don't know, 40 quid, whatever a table costs. But you could also pay 10 grand for a table, you know, if it's an antique and there's not many of them around and it was built by Chippendale or whoever. So that it's that kind of thing that you're kind of experiencing when you're seeing $5,000 for a guitar pedal. Where are we? Bring out the clones. Where are the clones? Yes, indeed. A clon, a kingdom for a clon. Yes, indeed. We're getting all the kind of clon references here, aren't we? Maybe I'm just a thick, bald, fat northern lad, but you know, I've just always thought in terms of I need a clean sound, and I need a grunty overdrive sound, and I need something in between, and I can usually do that with a guitar's volume control, and you know, anything beyond that, you know, I'm sort of I'm a bit out of my depth, to be honest. I've got to drill holes for a Gibson bridge. No drill stand. Should I use a hand drill? Go old school. Well, yes, you could do, mate. There are, I mean, Dan, who's the luthier on here, he'll probably kind of give you some better advice on that. But you know, how much is a drill stand at the end of the day? It's if you're not feeling particularly confident in, you know, kind of not wavering yet, you kind of hand around as you're drilling, then you know you can just go to a tool hire place and hire one for the day if need be. Pete's in Pete Long. Nothing wrong with thick, bald, and northern. I'll drink to that, Pete. Dearie me. I may have to go and get some more supplies in a moment. Yes, Podrig, find someone with a drill press. You can't put it right if you got it wrong. It's the old thing, isn't it? Measure twice, cut once. Did anybody see, on the topic of woodworking, did anybody see that there's a new show, I think it's on the History Channel, it was on last night. It's a bit like Bake Off, but for carpenters. It's that sort of format, you know, but it's not kind of baking cakes and bread and stuff like that. It's carpentry and carving and joinery and stuff like that, and it's strangely addictive. What security measures do you have on your guitars? UV marker, GPS systems. All of mine have got UV marker on them in some place or other. You know, so that's what I do. It's what, you know. Back in the 90s when I was out gigging a lot and, you know, stuff did go missing. You know, the only option you had then was UV marker. Yeah, saw an interview with Eddie Van Halen, saw how he made his first Superstrat, basically hacking his guitar with a chisel. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that. I think I've seen that interview myself. And, you know, the thing is, I mean, I've said it before, I'm not the world's biggest Van Halen fan in terms of the music, but, you know, his influence is undeniable. And actually, a little story about Van Halen, years and years and years ago, Radio 1 in the UK ran this competition, prizes that money can't buy. You know, it's like a sort of phone-in quiz, general knowledge quiz. And the drummer in a band I was in had won it, and he was kind of relaying the story to me, you know, kind of years later. And one of the prizes that money can't buy was a backstage pass to hang out with a band of your choice on tour in the UK. And he got to hang out with Van Halen. And yeah, because he won the competition. And he said Dave Lee Roth was exactly, that is not a character that Dave Lee Roth is playing when he's on stage. Dave Lee Roth is Dave Lee Roth, you know. He said, and there was kind of, you know, the dressing room, there was this kind of, you know, this kind of rather sweet smelling smoke kind of drifting around, if you know what I'm saying. And, you know, there was booze and there was kind of women everywhere, and, you know, and there's Eddie in the corner of the dressing room just kind of practicing playing scales. you know. So, where are we? Are you off, Podrick? I am, mate. Have a great weekend, mate. Hey, John. Are there any great guitar build projects you're following? As I say, no. Not because I'm not interested in it. It's just I don't have time to sit down and indulge my YouTube interest at the moment. I'm just not getting time to. I saw the Texas Toast one. That was a cool guitar. Was that the one that won? I think, wasn't it? Hi, I'm 60 next month and picked up a guitar for the first time ever a couple of years back. Doing okay, just rhythm, but loving your stuff more. More old guy beginner stuff, please, or not? Yeah, okay. I was thinking about doing some beginner stuff, actually. I was thinking about doing like a raw beginners video about like you playing your first couple of chords and strumming to something. That's an idea I've got in the pipeline. So yeah, there'll be more of that sort of stuff coming. What's the best papers to skin up with? I really, really don't know what you're talking about there, Deco, I'm afraid. Would you drill holes in an expensive Les Paul to fit a Bigsby, or did you ever use a Vibramate? I mean, there are plenty of aftermarket, top-mounted, like tremolo units. Like, isn't there a Duesenberg one or something like that where it just kind of attaches via the strap button and you don't have to drill anything? But no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't drill into a Les Paul. No. To my shame, I never paid much attention to Eddie Van Halen but since his death, I've seen a lot of videos. Such a natural guitarist, and of course, a mad professor of the guitar world. Yeah, I mean, I read an article on Eddie Van Halen. I think it was a couple of days after he passed. I think it was in the Daily Telegraph of all places. Where they actually called him the nutty professor of rock guitar world, and when you looked at the kind of the innovations that he'd come up with, and I didn't know he had so many patents to his name. Oh, Taj, you're on the Vindaloo, are you? Well, we're on the homemade curry tonight. And what's that? Pester power, picking techniques, pinched harmonics, ZZ top. Yeah, I did pinched harmonics last week, mate, on that viewers' questions video. The gunshot sound, that is just, I can tell you what that is now. That's just kind of sliding down a bass string with a bit of distortion, and then in the mix, just absolutely compress the living daylights out of it. But yeah, did you not see the pinched harmonics thing? It's in last week's viewers' questions video. Imagining John with a Bigsby is like imagining my dad with a tie bride. Oh dear me, Pete. Anyway, chaps need a refill. This is the last one. It's not the last one. If it wasn't for Eddie Van Halen, there would be no Nuno, and he's my biggest influence. So he did influence me in some ways. Yeah, I mean, as I said in that sort of obituary piece I did about Eddie Van Halen, the whole two-handed tapping thing, it's been in, flamenco guitar for forever. And then in rock guitar, Steve Hackett was doing it, and a few others. But it was Eddie who really just kind of went like that and said, "There you go. This is what you can do with this technique. This is, where you can take it." And the first time I saw it, it was on a BBC show in the 80s called Rock School, which was like this BBC thing where it was a rock school. I've done videos about it, look it up on YouTube. And the female guitarist on that show, she was called Deirdre Cartwright, hell of a player. And in the heavy metal episode of that show, they showed you how to do finger tapping. And it was like, oh, so that's how you get that sound. Okay, because I'd heard it, And I just thought, I'm going to learn how to do that. And I didn't know that was a particular Van Halen thing because, I was like, 16 or whatever. But it was Eddie who kind of just gave that to the world and sort of said, this is what you can do with this technique. Look how you can develop your playing with this. And for that, I think we all owe him a debt of gratitude. Eddie's tone and style made the individual techniques stand out. Yep. Hi, John. Did you get to see Thin Lizzy live? One of my favourite guitarists was Brian Robertson. Unfortunately, I never got to see them, but they were my favourite band for decades. No, I never got to see Thin Lizzy live. I'm very, very sorry to say. I am lucky enough to have seen Gary live, seen Gary Moore on the Still Got the Blues tour. That was the one and only time I saw him live. And I almost went to, because I think it was the Middlesbrough Empire a few years back had the sort of reformed version of Thin Lizzy, with Ricky Warwick, who used to be in, what was that band? 90s kind of rock band, can't remember. Can't remember what band was Ricky Warwick in. Somebody tell me. But they got him on vocals, and I think it's John Sykes and Brian Downey and Scott Gorham. The Almighty, that's it. Yes, I almost went to see them, but it was just a little bit too expensive. If I'm honest with you, it was going to work out to about £100. For me and the missus to go. By the time we'd got a cab there and a cab back and had a couple of beers and what have you, I'm thinking, for what is essentially a tribute band, meh, and I wish I had, because I saw them, I saw a live set of theirs on, I think it was one of the festivals, might have been Reading or Download or something that was on TV a little while later, and they were really, really good. Another band, actually, to keep an eye on. Don't know if anybody's heard of Black Star Riders. Oh, you have to see Clapton at the Albert Hall, are you, Pete? Good for you, mate. I saw him at the NEC in 1990 on the Journeyman tour. Fantastic gig. What current bands do you rate? I'm not really sure if they're current, but well, they are current because they're not a new band, but they are current. I'd say Foo Fighters, and who else? Quite like Rival Sons, quite like Greta Van Fleet, and a few others. But when somebody asks you and your mind goes blank. John, you're the man. I can't stop laughing. You read that out. Well, fair enough, mate. Whatever. Yeah, Black Star Riders. I mean, it's kind of, Black Star Riders are essentially elements of Thin Lizzy. I don't think Brian Downey's drumming for them, but I know it's definitely Scott Gorham, and I think it's still John Sykes, and I think it's still Ricky Warwick. But Thin Lizzy, it's Phil, isn't it? I mean, Phil was Thin Lizzy, and there's a movie coming out, isn't there? I'm not sure it's a biopic like the Freddie Mercury one. I think it's more of a documentary, but I've seen the trailers for it a couple of times on YouTube. Why the hate for Greta Van Fleet besides the Led Zepp thing? I don't know. I really don't know. They do sound very Led Zepp-ish, but I mean, another comparison you can make is there was a band, and they're probably still around, called Airborne, who, they are just an unashamed rip-off of AC/DC. I mean, they really, really are. And I just thought, well, if I want to listen to AC/DC, I'll listen to AC/DC. And I didn't kind of get into them for that reason. But Greta Van Fleet, that you can hear the Led Zeppelin influence, but they're not. I don't think you can honestly say that, oh, this Greta Van Fleet song is a rip-off of that Led Zeppelin song. There's an influence there and a strong sound, but it's not a rip-off. Yeah, exactly, Cherry Sunburst, mate. Led Zepp got a lot of flack for kind of ripping off the blues guys, didn't they? Good day, Ray. How are you, mate? Limehouse, Lizzy. Yes, I've seen them a couple of times. Saw them. There used to be a venue literally about, dearie me, 100 yards away from our house called the Red Car Bowl. And I saw them there many years ago. And then I saw them again at the Billingham Forum. Yeah, Airborne, tracked by Camelback 360, indeed. And Limehouse, Lizzy, I mean, fantastic band. I saw them do the tour I saw them on, or one of them was where they just basically did the entire Live and Dangerous album and really, really nailed it. No, it's not. I don't think it's a Thin Lizzy movie, mate. I don't think they've got some kind of actor playing Phil or something. I think it's just a documentary about Thin Lizzy, which Songs for While I'm Away, I think, is the name of the movie. So Eric Clapton, Robert Crane, Buddy Guy at the Albert Hall on a blues night in the 90s still gives me chills. Yes. I think that might have been on TV. I certainly seem to remember that. There used to be a show on Channel 4, didn't they, called Rock Steady? And I think it was they did a special episode of that. What happened to concept albums? Well, they're still around, aren't they? Still as unpopular as ever. I mean, we look back at the 70s and we think, oh, the great era of concept albums, Pink Floyd, Genesis, Yes, all of that sort of stuff. But, you had to be a bit of a rock nerd back then to kind of be listening to that. Everybody else was listening to Brotherhood of Man and Abba, back in the 70s. And it's only with a filter of time that you realize, okay, those albums are the ones that stand out for them. Who still listens to Brotherhood of Man albums from the 70s? Exactly. It's very much, you do need that perspective of time. And I suspect there'll be, some, Dream Theater albums or something from these or from recently that are looked back on in 20, 30 years' time as being the important albums that were released now. You can never really gauge in the moment what is the music that's going to stand the test of time. Plan B, The Defamation of Strickland Banks. That's a concept album. Yes, the only thing I know about Plan B is he played the Dennis Waterman part in the Sweeney movie, didn't he? Shame to say I've seen the Brotherhood of Man live. Well, fair enough, mate. Nothing wrong with that. Bring back Rick Wakeman. Other than that album, he's a tit. Oh, fair enough, mate. I can't stand 90s music. I think I'll just scrub that decade. Yeah, there was a lot of, I don't know, the 90s music. What would be my highlights from the 90s? Looking back on the 90s, I would think What's the Story, Morning Glory is a great album. Probably Nevermind is another good album. Still Got the Blues, that came out in the 90s. I suppose that the sort of, if I had to pick an album, well, Thunder. I mean, Thunder's Backstreet Symphony, I think that came out in 1990. But yeah, I know what you're saying, mate. I know what you said. There was a lot. There was a lot that you would prefer to forget about the 90s music. "25 years since What's the Story?" I saw Mike Flowers Pops live. They were supporting Gary Glitter at the Newcastle Arena, but I don't like to talk. Yes, I don't think anybody likes to talk about Gary Glitter these days. Are you off, are you, Pete? See you next week then, mate. 90s had the start of the post-rock movement, some really good stuff in there. Yeah, I mean, I suppose Blood Sugar Sex Magic by the Chili Peppers, you know. I mean, if you talk about iconic albums, you know, that's got to be up there, hasn't it? Yeah, everybody's coming out with some great albums now from the 90s. And, you know, you tend to think of the 90s as being like the whole kind of, you know, rave and, you know, all the kind of the beginnings of the manufactured, well, not the beginnings of the manufactured pop, but, you know, the prevalence of manufactured pop. Yeah, you're right, Colin. Backstreet Symphony is an epic album. What are you vaping with, John? CBD? No, this is just this flavour I've got in here is Irish coffee. SMG Studios get it right about late 80s and 90s. The drums were all computer corrected. It kills metal. Yes, it does. You know, I mean, Glenn's got his head screwed on, you know, pretty good on a lot of things. I just find his videos really funny, even when I don't really understand what he's talking about a lot of the time. Yeah, you see, Jason, Achtung Baby, that I was never a big U2 fan, and then they brought out Rattle and Hum, and I thought, this is really good. You know, I mean, Angel of Harlem, and of course, When Love Comes to Town, you know. And like the live versions of some of the kind of previous stuff that was on there, you know, I thought, actually, you know, they're a pretty good band. And then Achtung Baby came out, and I thought, okay, right, okay, so back to normal it is then. 90s had a lot of 70s bands playing pubs, indeed. Yes. Congrats for the wife's job. Well done. Yes, indeed. It's and do you know the best thing? If I look this way now, I'm looking out the window, looking up the street about 50 to 100 yards up the street. There is a taxi office, and that's where she's working. So she's got like 50 yards to walk to work. Yeah, 70s. I mean, I grew up in the 70s, so I have a soft spot for the music in the 70s, and but I do genuinely think that there was, in terms of rock music, if you think about the period between 69 and 79, that 10-year period, when you think about the kind of diversity and the originality of rock music in that 10-year period, I think it was a golden age. I think all art forms have a golden age. You know, there's a golden age of Hollywood, and there's a golden age of TV, and golden age of, you know, anything that you care to name in terms of an art form. And I think when rock music kind of found its feet in the late 60s and through the 70s, when there was no rule book to stick to, basically, everybody was doing everything for the first time. I think that's when rock music really kind of had its golden age, really. She'll save on cab fares then, John. Yes, indeed. Couldn't believe Stone Roses got the third best album of the 90s. Actually, a bit of a sleeper album of the 90s, and I can't even remember what it's called, but it was that John Squire album, you know, from the Stone Roses, his band, the Seahorses, they did one album, and I thought it was absolutely epic. And then he just decided, no, I don't want to be a musician anymore. I want to be a painter now. Love is the Law. That's the one. Yes. Where are we? So I do apologise. I need new glasses. Yes, Radiohead were, said Jason. Says Jason. Yeah, I don't like Radiohead. I just can't get me head around that much misery from a bunch of, kind of posh lads. But let's not get into that. I don't like the music. I find it self-indulgent and, just meh, to be honest with you. And I just don't understand the adulation that they get. But anyway, I don't want to be kind of sitting here sounding all bitter and twisted, even though I am. You taught John Squire's nephew your claim to fame. My claim to fame is I taught an X Factor finalist. If anybody remembers a band from this part of the world called Journey South, it wasn't a band, it was just they were a band when they were doing the pubs around here. But by the time they hit the X Factor, it was just the two singers, the two brothers. I taught Carl. Can't remember his surname, but I taught the one of the lads out of Journey South, and ended up selling him my PA system when they started gigging, and yeah, it's the closest I've ever come to being famous. Yeah, Pete, I see what you're saying. Fade Out Street Spirit, only decent Radiohead song. Yeah, even that one. Yeah, I can. And even Creep, I just, meh, to be honest. Sam the Cooking Guy, chicken parmo recipe on YouTube, much more life affirming than Radiohead. Well, there you go. Anyway, chaps, we've been on an hour and I'm almost out of beer, and I've got a curry downstairs with my name on it. So once again, thank you, everyone, so much for turning up. It is really appreciated. I say this every time, but I mean it every time. I can't believe so many people out there are prepared to sit on a Friday night and watch a fat lad get leathered. But apparently you do, and long may it continue. Cheers, everyone. I'll see you all in the next video. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.